الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى والدين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد بارك وسلم عليه. Indeed, the praise, all praises is for Allah. It is He that we turn to in distress. It is He that we submit to. It is He to whom we turn to seek forgiveness from the evil results of our own actions. It is He from whom we seek forgiveness. It is He who sent His beloved slave and messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the true deen, and it is He who will make this true deen prevail over all other systems, religions, ways of life. We bear witness that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah, and we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His beloved slave and messenger. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace, His mercy, His blessings down upon His beloved slave and messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, His companions and His family. قال الله تعالى كما ورد في سورة الفصلات بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون نزلا من غفور رحيم ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين صدق الله العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم أرنا حق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا باطلا باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم أرنا حقيقة الأشياء كما هي آمين يا رب العالمين. My dear brothers and sisters, these are 4 ayahs from Surah Al-Fusilat, very famous ayahs. We recite them very often. We've heard them recited very often in our salah. A rough translation: as for those who say our sustainer is Allah and then steadfastly pursue the right way, upon them angels descend. Fear not, grieve not, but receive the glad tidings of that paradise which has been promised to you. We, Allah, are close unto you in the life of this world and will be so in the life to come. And in that you shall have all that your souls may desire, and in that you shall have all that you ever prayed for, as a ready welcome from Him who is much forgiving and a dispenser of grace. And who could be better of speech than he who calls his fellow men unto God, and what is just and right, and says, verily I am those who have surrendered themselves unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. My dear brothers and sisters, you have often heard me talk about the commands of Allah as given in the Quran, the order. Let's link this back to the very first command that we see in the Quran. Ya ayyuhan nasu u'budu rabbakum. And see how fundamental that command is and where that command then leads us. And we shall also talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this giving us a worldview. That means how is it that we are supposed to be? Not only how are we supposed to be, but on what are we also supposed to build our very thoughts. Thoughts don't exist in a vacuum. They have to have a foundation. And here the foundation is being laid that for everything that you think of, and from there will emanate your action, the very presupposition for you and I has to be Rabbun Allah, Allah is my Rabb. This is not to be argued about. This is not open to argumentation. This is a fact. Now, based on this, everything else will come from. What do I want to do? What do I want to be? What do I want to eat? What do I want to wear? Who do I want to marry? Who I want to divorce? Why do I want to have children? How will I raise my children? Why do I want to educate my children? To what purpose? Everything will have to come from this. Rabbun Allah. My Rabb is Allah. And once we do this, the result is going to be a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's read that statement as a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we will be then innani minal muslimin. Not as Muslim, not only just a Muslim as an identity, la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. It's a higher degree. Remember, Islam also means security. Innani minal muslimin also has a dimension that we feel that we are of those who are secure with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is our worldview. Rabbun Allah. And when we act on it, summa istaqamu, we are steadfast on it. The result, inshallah, Allah is going to give us that. That we will be Muslim, we will be secure with Him, inshallah. Here, I want to take you to some basic words that we use day in and day out. I use the word worldview. We can all use this word, we've listened to this word very often. Worldview. You can have, oh, what is it? Oh, it's how we view the world. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's how the world functions. Or how does that? Interestingly, when you look at the dictionary does not give you a very, in English, it does not give you many words to define it. It refers to a German word, Weltanschauung. And then you go look it up, and then it gives you the definition of this word as a comprehensive conception or image of the universe and of humanity's relation to it. A comprehensive conception or image of the universe and of humanity's relation to it. So many words. What if I were to choose one word for it? Would anybody dispute with me if I chose the word Islam for this? Because isn't that what Islam is? A comprehensive concept of what this world is, where does it come from, why, what is our role in it, our relationship to this world and the Creator, our worldview. We use the word religion to describe Islam. My humble opinion is that it's a gross injustice to Islam and the message that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ brought forth. Religion is what? Described as in the dictionary. A specific fundamental set of beliefs and practices generally agreed upon by a number of persons or sects, or a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, especially when considered as the creation of a superhuman agency, and so forth. Belief, meaning just an idea. Maybe it's right, maybe wrong. Is that what Islam is? A belief, open to maybe being right or being wrong. It's very important for us to think about these things, dear brothers and sisters, to be conscious of this. Because many of us, being immigrant Muslims and so forth, brought up in our societies which we left behind are also changing. They've changed beyond recognition for anybody who's been in the West for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years and goes back and visits. They are being impacted on. So, like I said, we have to understand what is going on. We have to understand what is it that is affecting us. So, and I'm going to quote a couple of non-Muslims academicians and look what they have to say. Our worldviews determine to a large extent what we can believe about life. That means if our worldview is corrupted, if we are not conscious, if we are not actively acting on this principle, Rabbuna Allah, summa istaqamu. Allah is my Rabb. That is my starting point, and I'm going to stand firm on it. If we lose sight of that, then our game is over. We are done with. Our generation, mashallah, the people over here in Salah who are coming to the masjid, we may survive it. Wallahu alam. Ask ourselves honestly, could we say the same thing for our children? And we'll visit this. If we are unaware of which worldview claims our allegiance, they will continue to determine our behavior in ways to which we are simply blind. At a far deeper level than ideologies or myths, worldviews will dictate what we are able to believe. Meaning, the very belief that we say, belief in Allah, will be open to challenge, will be corrupted, is at risk. They are the presuppositions not by which we think, they are the presuppositions on which we think. Rabbuna Allah summa istaqamu. And if you think that it's not something that is pertinent, let me take you to another scholar, historian of Islam. And he had this to say, commenting upon what transpired in the past. We are talking now about 200 years ago. He says, even in the independent areas, he's referring here to the Muslim areas, Muslim lands that were not conquered by European armies. Even in the independent areas, they could retain their local autonomy only to the extent that they provided European merchants, European missionaries, even European tourists with a certain minimum of that type of international law and order to which the Europeans had become accustomed to in Europe. And he goes on to say this: all peoples, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, animists, all peoples had to adjust their governments to a modern European international political order, but also their economies, a harder task, and finally, which is even more important, to adjust their mental outlook, to the challenge of modern science as studied in Europe. The mere presence of the Europeans was enough for their new power to be felt. Now, what he says, this change was already completed by the year 1800. 1798, 1800 is the official historical date which the historians say that Islam came face to face with what is called modernity. Prior to this, Christianity was defeated, Judaism was defeated. Now Islam, you choose. Islam as a deen or Islam as a religion is now face to face and is still standing in front of modernity. And here I bear the bad news that Islam, the religion, is faring very, very miserably, very badly. It's taking a huge beating. We are losing our generations. Islam as the deen is standing. We are winning new converts. We are getting new blood in. You are seeing the Caucasian convert wearing hijab and wearing it proudly, and you're seeing the generational Muslim taking off. The taking off is the Islam, the religion, taking a beating. The putting on is Islam, the deen. It's hard to digest, it's hard to take, but it is the reality. And we have to think about it. Rabbuna Allah summa istaqamu. And look what he has to say. Electricity or introduction of electricity or theory of relativity of physics is not a progression of that thought process, but rather just a fruit of that thought process. That means, don't think that we are going about in electric cars, aeroplanes, or we are modern. No. This is a product of a mindset that has already been established 200 years ago. And these are the products of that mindset. And just so that we realize what this is, especially the question, I want to educate my kids. I want to have my children the best education. What does that mean? Statement, again, observation. This change that happened, was completed by 1800 years ago, was sudden in human historical terms and resulted in changing of the most elementary presuppositions of any subsequent human social and cultural development. What does that mean? Your worldview is changing. Prior to this, when Islam, Christianity, Judaism, when Muslim was speaking to a Jew, to a Hindu, or a Christian, they never had to say to each other, there is God. Each one of them presumed and affirmed presence of Allah. What they talked to each other about was, what is it that Allah wants us to do? What is it that God wants us to do? Post 1800, this thing changed. The statement of there is God has changed to is there God, and be aware of it. The Muslim is just as well corrupted as the non-Muslim on this basic concept. And if you are and I am not aware of this, we are going to lose our generations. 1835. One of the English governors assigned to India, Macaulay, wrote a very comprehensive book, A Minute on Indian Education, and he set forth goals of why we are going to educate. And let me read this to you. Look at the arrogance in there. And then let's ask ourselves honestly, each one of us, honestly ask ourselves, do we not in our actions say that he is right and doing what he is setting over there? Listen. I am quite ready to take the Oriental learning at the valuation of Orientalists themselves, Muslims, Hindus, whatever. I have never found one among them who could deny that a single shelf of a good European library, was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. You know what that means? Up until that point, every piece that was ever written by non-Muslim Arabs and Muslim Arabs, be it in the field of theology, be it in the field of science, literature, whatever, everything, the whole century's worth of knowledge that the Muslims and in this case the Hindus had produced, he is saying, asking that question and basically saying no, that all that is not worth a single shelf of good European books. Ask yourselves today this: do we not say the same thing with our actions when we turn a blind eye to how our children are being educated, how their thinking is being changed? Go on. The question now before us is simply whether, when it is in our power to teach this language, meaning English, we shall teach languages in which by universal confession there are no books on any subject which deserve to be compared to our own. Whether we can teach European science, we shall teach systems by universal confession, wherever they differ from those of Europe, differ for the worse. Meaning, if you don't agree with Europe, you are an inferior. Let's ask ourselves, what value do we put on our kids being literate and educated about Islam, versus what value do we put on our children to get necessary qualifications and literacy so that they can go on to become doctors or engineers or any of the lucrative professions, or to get into good colleges. What value? And if we find ourselves wanting in that, the basic problem is not that we don't have the economic resources for it. The basic problem is, are we coming from the position of Rabbun Allah summa istaqamu, or are we coming from another position? أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Now this corruption of worldview. Now, let me tell you this. Christianity has no remedy for this. Judaism has no remedy for this. Any other philosophy or religious tradition you can think of has no remedy for it. And this was amply demonstrated by an incident that a friend of mine recounted. Professor at a prestigious university in America, a Christian pastor in his class comes up to him and wants him to write a letter of recommendation so that this Christian pastor can get into a seminary, Christian seminary, a theological school. And confides to him, I can say that you have to love Jesus, but I don't know why, I don't know how. Person he's been confiding to is a Muslim, and he's looking to him to give him an answer. In effect, this Christian pastor is looking to a Muslim professor who he knows is a Muslim, practicing Muslim, and he's asking him to heal him spiritually. That is the strength of Rabbun Allah summa istaqamu. Recently, somebody I know had taken his son to one of the most prestigious schools in Las Vegas because there was to take a national test. While he was there, he was asked by one of the teachers over there whether he was considering putting his son in that academy. And upon being said no, was asked the reason why. Please bear in mind that this is the impression that they hold of us. The person whose son was there said he did not want to put him in that place because most of the people that he had seen come out from there, or he said all, were snotty and snobbish kids. And he basically said he did not want his kid to turn out like that. The answer of the teacher of that school was, it is good to look outside your own community. Meaning what? Meaning, yes, you're right. You've seen all snotty and snobbish kids. But you know what? The problem is not with us. The problem is with you. in your community. Because you're seeing all from your own community, they are like that, you're seeing that, and I agree they are like that. The problem is with you, not with us, because there are other kids over here who are different. To the same school was taken another brother's son and was offered a free ride to go to that school. Bear in mind now, this is a school that most of the well-to-do Muslims would break their legs and hands to go to put their children in. Why? So that they can get a good education. They wouldn't mind taking the first step of taking haya from their kids by allowing their daughters to be wearing a certain way and be dressed in a certain manner in public. They wouldn't mind that because it's all for the sake of a good education. Now to this, and for this they'll pay top dollars, almost college fees. Going on, so this brother goes, his son gets a full scholarship. And he says what? No, wait a minute. I'm not going to put my son in yet until you tell me that you are going to provide space for salah for him over here. And you tell me that this is a boy now, bear in mind, that he is going to be exempt from the uniform requirements that we would consider against Islamic requirements. The school administration says this, and I've been in this community for 15 years, and for 15 years people have been sending their kids to this school. We have never been asked to do this before. We have never been asked to do this before, but I'm not going to say no. I'm going to go and take it to the board and come back to you. Here there's a community who is paying thousands of dollars to send their kids. For the last decade and a half that I've been in this community, and here is this person whose son is getting a free ride to that school and is saying, hey, wait a minute, all that's fine and dandy, but my son is not going here until this and this is met. Guess what? They come back and they say, no problem, we want him. He will be provided a space to pray. He will be exempt from the uniform requirements that you will consider against Islam. No problem, send it. Goes on further. Okay, next step. My wife has to come and see the school environment and be convinced. No problem, we'll arrange that too. The sister goes. Comes back. The brother says, okay, let's go ahead and put our son in. The sister says, you know what, I wouldn't trust you in that environment, let alone sending my son over there. I'm not going to send my son there.